Welcome. This morning's sutta reading and discussion. And we'll start with the Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Bhutam Dhammam Sangham Namasami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So we have here, this is Nyanika, and I am Subhijana, and we have chosen a sutta, kind of a follow-up after we were talking about the 8 worldly winds last week. And we found a couple of suttas related to the aspect of the first 2 of the worldly winds, which is gain and loss. So I wanted to explore those suttas this morning and how they what's really essential in the Buddhist teaching is reflected in these teachings, I think, are one of the really important aspects of his teaching. But you kind of have to really examine the suttas sometimes to really extract what's being said, because there's in the Pali tradition, there's a lot of repetition. And that repetition is really helpful for memorization. But we, as Westerners, are used to things being more concise and we're getting our language is getting briefer and briefer and briefer.
Word.
The word, huh?
Sorry, it was a joke. Getting briefer and briefer and briefer. I just said word.
Word, yeah. Yeah, the words, we're using less and less words for things that we used to, and then sometimes it makes things just very vague.
Yeah.
And not really understandable, or you can fill in the blanks yourself. But anyway, so we'll start with the reading the sutta, and I think I have to check to see. Should I close out Pasadi? No, here we go. So we're gonna share. We like to share. This is something we should have learned in kindergarten. There we go. So can you all see the screen share? Okay. So this is like I said, this is the first pair of the worldly conditions we're looking at in this one sutta particularly. So the first 2 is gain and loss. And this is the arahant, or somebody who's awakened. An ordinary person, gain may obsess their mind and loss may obsess their mind. And they might favor gain and oppose loss. But this is the awakened person. Gain does not obsess their mind, and loss does not obsess their mind. I just took 2 bits from it. This doesn't appear quite like this in the sutta itself, but I wanted to show this. And they don't favor gain or oppose loss. And this is this word laba. And it's not alaba, be, alabe. So it's alaba when it's just a noun. So that's gain and loss. So I and Yannicka kindly looked up this word laba, and we found this sutta. We've both been contemplating this sutta uh, the past few days in preparation. I've been looking at it all week, but anyway, so would you mind reading? This is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, and I've taken it to make it a little more wieldy for the Western mind to comprehend. So there's not as much repetition. Would you mind reading? Let's see.
Bhikkhus.
We could start out with the first one. Just read through the first,
Number one.
the first person.
There are these 8 kinds of persons found existing in the world. What 8? Here, when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He rouses himself, strives, and makes an effort to acquire gain. Nevertheless, he fails to acquire gain. Due to that lack of gain, he sorrows, languishes, and laments. He weeps, beating his breast and becoming confused. This is called a bhikkhu, desirous of gain, who rouses himself, strives, and makes an effort to acquire gain, but not getting it, sorrows and laments. He has fallen away from the good Dhamma.
So usually you don't think of monastics striving for gain, material gain. But if you think about it, especially in the time of the Buddha, the monastics would have to walk long distances, miles. And when I was in Thailand, we walked about 2 miles, 2.5 miles, maybe it would be a round trip for the closest village that we knew would offer some food. And then we walked back and forth on a particular street because they were expecting us. Some of the villagers would expect us, but at the time of the Buddha, when the monks went on tour, you might walk a long ways, and no one might offer food. Or we heard of, let's say we were wandering monastics, and we heard of a wonderful uh, town, and they it seemed like they were interested in the Buddhist teaching. And we go there, we walk for miles, and we think that this would be a good resort, like a place to stay for a while. And the village people said, no, can't stay here. We got other aesthetics we like better, go away. So that would be kind of the effort that the monastics would be making at the time of the Buddha. And these days, our friends just recently made an effort, and they did, but we can talk, that's the next one.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this one, and then the Buddha always, it seems like they always use a strong language here. It sorrows, languishes, laments, weeps, beating his breast, and becomes confused. That's pretty extreme, but even if you're just like upset to a lesser degree, then I think there's the idea that one has fallen away from the good Dhamma. This is the Sudhamma. And so this is a state of mind of attachment or obsession or favoring one outcome and not getting it.
And we can see that.
What was the word? It was like opposing loss and obsessed. The mind becomes obsessed. And you were about to say something.
Well, yeah, about that obsession. I mean, we've got big words here that look so dramatic, but when we look at obsession actually in ourselves, for me, I find there's this diluted layer over the top a lot of the times, but when I clear away some of the delusion and actually look, there is this obsession in the heart of this like, and it can be actually fairly subtle. but I would still say it's an obsession.
Mhm.
And it's either lamenting, there's a quality of poor me or something in there. Or in the next one, there's an intoxication.
So,
And it can be very subtle. Here the words sound so bold and big that, oh, maybe I'm not doing that. But look closer.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. But yeah, so it is strong language, but to a lesser degree, we have to look out for that
Mhm.
because it also can build to this point
Mhm.
of really extreme emotional because
Mhm.
every little disappointment that we have on moving towards to gain something materially uh could amplify our reaction.
Mhm.
So but if we see when we have little, we're not successful on smaller things, that we don't get what we were looking for, we can if we could just be on the lookout for that disappointment, that also the obsession, well, I didn't get it this time, and how am I going to get it the next time, or how, so there's that obsession for gain uh that preoccupies the mind. Would you read the next one, please?
But when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He rouses himself, strives, and makes an effort to acquire gain. He acquires gain. Due to that gain, he becomes intoxicated, grows heedless, and drifts into heedlessness. This is called a bhikkhu, desirous of gain, who rouses himself, strives, and makes an effort to acquire gain. And getting it, becomes intoxicated and heedless, is fallen away from the good Dhamma.
So this intoxication is in a that yeah, some elation. So it could be like or and then especially, let's say, something we've worked for and then we've attained it, and we're not considering that this, then another thing in the worldly winds, that you don't become elated when you finally get what you were working hard towards, but you reflect, okay, this is impermanent, like all things, and because eventually when we acquire something, there's loss. And even like I'm thinking about alms food again, and we go to the village, and then things are really prosperous, and people are offering wonderful food in our bowl, and then next time we go to that same village, for some reason no one's out offering us food. Something happened. We're just like, and we're expecting, or so we there's some bad reputation about us that's rumored, gone around, and we go, and we're not being treated the same way. This is just a monastic experience that could happen. It's a scenario that I'm making up, but you could, in your own lives, you can imagine, things are going well, the economy is great, and then there's COVID. And it was devastating for a lot of people, and they lost their businesses and things like that. So, sometimes we're successful, we put the effort out and we're successful, and then all of that can disappear. So this intoxication, heedlessness, um, is not just being lazy. It's a mental state. We're just anticipating it's always going to be like this. Do you have anything to add to that?
I'm just picturing there was an aspirant talking about needing to pay off debt. And so they got a better quality job, better pay, not quality, a better paying job. And people were saying, oh, you're going to get intoxicated with, making more money and whatnot. And that didn't happen, they didn't become heedless. They just said, okay, now I've paid off my debt. Now I can continue on the journey that I've set myself for.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's a good
and
example. Thank
it's a
you.
real world example of
Yeah.
someone who got it, but then didn't become heedless
Mm-hmm.
by
Mm-hmm.
having it.
Mm-hmm. So now we go to number 3, and you say both of these have fallen away from the good Dharma, one with intoxication and the other one with the grief.
Mhm.
Now we're at 3.
But when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He does not rouse himself, strive, and make an effort to acquire gain. He does not acquire gain. Due to that lack of gain, he sorrows, languishes, and laments. He weeps, beating his breast and becoming confused. This is called a bhikkhu desirous of gain, who does not rouse himself. Not getting the gain, he sorrows, laments, and has fallen away from the good Dhamma.
So he's not applying himself to gaining what he's just sitting maybe around thinking, hoping it'll just come to him. Uh, and sometimes this appears as jealousy too, where other people, uh, it seems quite easily that they acquire things. And so then a person might just uh, be desirous of things, but not applying them, not really having a clue how to apply themselves, but then they still want what other people have. There's something to that effect. Um, do you have anything to say about that one? Yeah, and now go to number 4, please.
But when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He does not rouse himself, strive, and make an effort to acquire gain. Nevertheless, he does acquire gain. Due to that gain, he becomes intoxicated, grows heedless, and drifts into heedlessness. This is called a bhikkhu desirous of gain, who does not rouse himself and gets the gain and becomes intoxicated and heedless. He's fallen away from the good Dhamma. A lot of falling here.
So these first 4 have fallen away from the Dhamma because of their mental states. They're both of them, all 4 of them have a desire for gain. 2 of them strive. 2 of them, 2 of them
Don't.
don't. 2 of them uh, receive, and others don't. But all 4 of them, their minds become imbalanced due to the gain
Or
or
not. They
loss.
are not getting.
The either gain or loss. Their minds have become imbalanced. Now, this next group, a similar thing.
But when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He rouses himself, strives, and makes an effort to acquire gain. Nevertheless, he fails to acquire gain. However, he does not sorrow, languish, and lament due to that lack of gain. He does not weep, beating his breast and becoming confused. This is called a bhikkhu desirous of gain, but on not getting it, does not sorrow and lament. He has not fallen away from the good Dhamma.
So I think this is the point the Buddha is trying to make, is how do we not fall away? Is it, until we're arhants. Excuse me. Until we're arhants, we'll still have desires. An arhat, uh, the anagami has a desire for formless attainments and other kind of higher attainments, but if they haven't gotten there yet. And but arhat would not have any desire. So this gives us, so it's not that desire in itself is a terrible thing and blocking us from progress on the path. We've got to be careful with what we're desiring. In the case of a monastic, it's probably the requisites that they're desiring and then that they're um, pursuing. So if we're desiring something that's inappropriate, then it's this we would fall away from the Dhamma no matter, because of the inappropriate desire. But here, I'm guessing because they did not fall away from the Dhamma, the good Dhamma, that they were just seeking what was appropriate for their station in life as a monastic.
Yeah, they didn't, because they didn't become confused. They were probably within their gochara, their domain.
Mm-hmm. Their domain. So for a lay person too, uh, you have to seek a livelihood. You seek, and care for yourself uh, but it's as long as it's not harmful. Uh, but then there's that obsession with gain to acquire. And then whether or not we gain, whether or not we obtain what we're trying to uh, gain what we're trying to abstain, our mind should be stable. And then we've not fallen away from the good Dhamma.
Mhm.
Would you read 6, please?
But when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He rouses himself, strives, and makes an effort to acquire gain. He acquires gain. He does not become intoxicated, grow heedless, and drift into heedlessness due to that gain. This is called a bhikkhu desirous of gain, making an effort and getting it. Does not become intoxicated and heedless. He has not fallen away from the good Dhamma. And who's our example here?
Yes, well, we were discussing yesterday, I think, about how our monastic brothers, the Clear Mountain monastics, had they've made a lot of effort, and they and their whole community, there's years of building to a point where they were able to obtain a land, a property that's quite beautiful. But we were just saying to ourselves, I'm sure they're not intoxicated, and I'm sure that even the idea that was theirs. If
Right.
you have a something like a monastery, if you think it's mine, this is like
That's the problem.
intoxication.
Yeah.
Um, and so just to be grateful that this happened, and I'm sure they're not going to fall into heedlessness.
Right.
So this is a perfect example, and where it's an amazing accomplishment, and it's just the beginning of the effort that
Right.
they're going to have to put into
Right.
to develop it. But still, one could get just there's cases where uh, dwellings are offered to monastics, and it could be very luxurious. And there was a story of this one. Uh, it was another monk was visiting this monk who was in this really luxurious temple. And he went to find this older monk, and the monk was just sitting in the corner, and just it seemed like he was not moved by all the kind of glitz that was around him. He was just still looked like a simple monk. And you can imagine in some temples where in Thailand, this so much attention and so much people bring so much material stuff um, that it could go to a person's head. They could become intoxicated. So so for everyone to just not to allow the our material gain to throw our minds out of balance.
Mhm.
So we're on number
7.
7. Okay.
But when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He does not rouse himself, strive, and make an effort to acquire gain. He does not acquire gain. He does not sorrow, languish, and lament due to the lack of gain. He does not weep, beating his breast, and become confused. This is called a bhikkhu, desirous of gain, not getting it. He does not sorrow and lament. He's not fallen away from the good Dhamma.
Yes, I was saying there's always a desire here.
Mhm.
And then, like I was saying, if it's something within our requisite needs, and yeah, this is just a different permutation. And I'm not, but you can see that somebody, I mean, not wishing to go out for or try hard. Sometimes, like you make some amount of effort, and then you get just enough of what you need, but
This is the day this
this
bhikkhu
is the
decides to fast. And it's like, okay,
or just the or some it could be that the people were coming to where they were to offer, and it didn't happen that day.
yeah,
They didn't make the effort, and no one came, and
it happens. And
yeah,
then they don't sorrow. They're like, oh, okay, more meditation time for me.
right. And now we have number 8.
But when a bhikkhu is dwelling in solitude, living independently, a desire arises in him for gain. He does not rouse himself, strive, and make an effort to acquire gain. Nevertheless, he acquires gain. He does not become intoxicated, grow heedless, and drift into heedlessness due to that gain. This is called a bhikkhu, desirous of gain. Getting it does not become intoxicated and heedless. He has not fallen away from the good Dhamma.
Sad.
These are the 8 kinds of persons found existing in the world.
So I took some extracts from this is not the complete sutta that we just looked at. That was Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation from the numerical discourses. And this is just some extract. The first one, when a mendicant stays secluded, living independently, a desire arises for material things. I was just wanted to show the poly. Thank you. Uh, okay. And yeah, because I had to be. Um, this is just a different translation with the poly in along with it. So they try hard and strive to make an effort, but material things don't come to them. They sorrow, wail, lament, beating their breast, falling into confusion because they don't get those material things. So he's making a point that the gain is material things here. I don't know how he's because gain gaining also could be gaining attainment, attaining on the
Right, but the lapa, that one of its definitions is actually like money, profit.
right. So I'm just going down to
Yeah.
the
Oh, okay.
I have the translations
All
down
right.
below
Sorry.
for some of these things. Um, but just as because if you look at it and you just attainment or gaining something, this is on the material realm. Um, so we have here icho, which is uh, wishing or desiring, and then this is uh, the gain. A mendicant who lives desiring material things, they try hard, strive, and make an effort to gain them, but when they do not acquire material things, they don't sorrow, and they haven't fallen from the true teachings. So here again, we have this laba and alaba, but this is the na and the laba um, become one word, and it becomes the negates it. So this is where we have, instead of just gain and loss, it's gain and not obtaining is another understanding of that. So this is what this sutta is all about. Whether we gain or we don't gain, or we lose what we have, then our mind should be stable. It shouldn't affect the mind. And this is a icha. We have icha up here of wishing. I should have probably get this one out of there, but and then there's laba, gain, acquisition, benefit, profit. And then fallen away is kuta, fallen from the Dhamma, good teaching, true doctrine, true nature of things, but also there's this good quality and positive characteristic. So this is also referring to the person. They have lost their positive. I mean, why did we go forth into monastic life? Not for material gain. So if their mind is obsessed with material gain, they've fallen away. You know, your original intention, well, hopefully,
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't
Well,
like
the monastics that I know didn't go in for stuff.
right. Well, the Buddha became very popular, and the people were
Mhm.
lavishing the monastics sometimes with lots of things, and it could be an ascetic sees that and say, I want that. That's the wrong reason to go forth into monastic life.
Right, we've got the sutta heir to the Dhamma, not heir to, we be heirs to the Buddha's Dhamma, not.
Not to material things, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is pamajati, careless, negligent. That's the one who's become careless, wastes one's time. And then there's also intoxicated. See, these words have a lot of permutations. Besotted. So, uh, but yeah, so this is for mental state, not really like intoxicated with a substance, but I think you might recognize in yourself that feeling of elation, intoxication is like, oh wow, I've gotten it. This is, and you can so you could kind of like, so this is a different permutations of that one experience when we actually have gotten something that we really wanted, whether it was just dropped in our lap or uh we worked hard for it. And I think this some oh, here's see, there's intoxication. There's two words here, really to emphasize that, because this has to do with careless, negligent, and I think it's this word relates to pomoja. Oh, a pomada. I mean pomada.
Okay.
Pomada.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's why I was confused. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, I got the wrong word. You know what I was talking about. Pomada, carelessness. And this Mahdi is actually the word for intoxicated. So the Buddha emphasizes sometimes when he speaks, and he uses words that have similar meaning to get a point across. So now we get to this beautiful chart that Ayya Dhyānika put together to help us really understand what the sutta was saying. It took me a while I went over it a few times to really see what the Buddha was pointing out. And I was like, wait a minute, all of these have desire arising for gain. Hmm. And then some of them are arousing energy to acquire it. And one fails and one gains. And so when they gain, they become intoxicated. And when they don't gain, they have sorrow. And what happens? They're called a bhikkhu who has fallen away from the good Dhamma. And the one who does not arouse energy fails, and another one acquires, and the failing bhikkhu sorrows, and the acquiring one gets intoxicated, and they've fallen away from the good Dhamma. And would you read the last four?
Oh, the last four, it's exactly the same permutations as before in the sense of whether they strive
But
or don't, and they
they
acquire
all
or don't.
they all
desire.
desire. Yeah, they all
They all
desire.
desire. Some rouse, some do not, some gain, some do not, all those permutations. But in the second to last column, you see they do not sorrow, they do not become intoxicated. And that's, so as Ayya Suvajana was saying earlier, it's about the mental state here. It's about where are we being pulled around, pushed around by the circumstances. And that's what causes us to fall. And so in these cases, they don't sorrow or become intoxicated, so they don't fall away from the Dhamma. Yay!
Yay! I am thinking that maybe we should open it for discussion now, and we could save
Sure.
the next sutta for next week so we don't rush through it.
Good, yeah.
We can take time because we do have another one. Oh, the bonus, but we have to include the bonus. I and Yannicka put this together, the bonus.
Well, it was based on what you were saying. Yeah, this bonus one is not in the sutta. So it's when somebody does not desire. And they may or may not make an effort. They may or may not fail or gain. But in any of those cases, they don't sorrow or become intoxicated. And then the last column, Ayya Suvijana said, that's because they are the Dhamma now. Sadhu aye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, should we leave the chart up or should we, or we can just, people could want to just speak from, their experience. I could put it on gallery view.
Sure. Has any of this happened to anyone ever in your life?
Let me switch. I'm going to stop the screen share. And if you want your picture on in the gallery on YouTube, then you can put your camera on. If not, you can stay anonymous.
Well, semi-anonymous, their name is there. Yeah. So
So, does anybody would like to make a comment about this sutta, like from your own experience, and maybe even noticing, I'm getting carried away. So sometimes so the desire is going to be there whether or not until we're arahant. So anyone want to put a hand up? Does want to make a comment on this sutta? Or did we get something in the chat even?
nope.
Was there a question? You can put a question in the chat. You can ask a question or make a comment if you care.
Maybe because we worked through it so many times to get all the permutations, it made sense the first time to them. That's good.
Should we go on to the next sutta? Or should
Guess so.
we could go on to the next sutta if there's no, well, it looks like somebody is,
No.
no questions, comments in the chat?
Nope.
Okay. So we will go to the next sutta then.
Go back to speaker view before you do the sharing. Speaker.
Okay, there we go. We can also put questions in the chat as we go along. If this one is a shorter sutta, it does have 9 permutations. Not permutations, but 9.
A series, a sequence.
Yeah, we could just look at all right. This is rooted in craving. So this is a causal chain that happens, and it is related to this last sutta we looked at. The Buddha starts out, this is Bhante Sujato's translation. If you ever see the word mendicant, it's likely to be Bhante Sujato's translation of the suttas. So he's addressing the bhikkhus, but this is for everyone. I will teach you about 9 things rooted in craving. And what are the 9 things rooted in craving? Craving gives rise to searching. Searching gives rise to gaining material things. So this was the ones that were striving, or even if the person is not intentionally seeking, we kind of are unconsciously, I think, looking for things. Gaining material things gives rise to evaluation. So then we find something. This looks really nice. This is really a good quality cup. I think it's really valuable. So, anyway, so then
it
we
looks
evaluate.
so ordinary. It looks so, so you can make those kind of judgments too.
Yeah, anyway, evaluation gives rise to desire and lust. This is my cup.
Good for you.
Desire and lust gives rise to attachment. See, leapt to ownership because this happens really quickly. It looks like it's like
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. Like, oh, let's see, is it good enough or something? It would be like kind of like, oh, this is really wonderful. It's mine. So the attachment and ownership, and then I don't want to share the cup with anyone. It's to hide it in my room and don't want anyone else to use it. Ownership gives rise to stinginess. Stinginess gives rise to safeguarding. Yeah, see, I already had it in my room. And ownership, owing to safeguarding, many bad, unskillful things come to be taking up the rod and the sword,
Over a
quarrels,
cup.
arguments, disputes, accusations, backbiting, and lies. Certainly not over a cup, but this is in the world, and wars and things like that happen because of this craving, which is the desire. In this case, the desire has gone very awry in the worldly sense, and uh, so this elation or distress about not getting or not getting, because we think this is something really wonderful, um, or gives rise to this attachment, ownership, stinginess, and safeguarding, desire and lust. Because with this is in the worldly winds. This is talking about what we wish to have things that are pleasurable. This is a Chandaraga. And so people kill one another over wanting to get something that's pleasurable or being distressed because they've been separated from what they thought was theirs that was pleasurable, that gave them pleasure. I mean, the Buddha is just observing human nature here. So it's a kind of a causal chain within our existence, starting with the craving. And so we can see ourselves with a craving, and it's like making an effort to get what we want and then gaining it.
Oops.
What are you doing?
Yep. Messed up.
I just put it separately like that. It's okay. Um, so I have some of the Pali words down here. So the causal chain doesn't have to go all the way down. We can the thing with these kind of causal chains in our experience is we can see them arising. We can, like they were saying, you can see the intoxication or see the distress, whether you've gained or you've lost or you've haven't gotten what you wanted. But once you've gotten it, you can see how this uh thinking that this is the best thing in the world, and and then I'm getting a lot of pleasure out of it, leads to attachment. You can see that. You can start seeing the attachment. Um and then thinking, can I let go, or anywhere along this causal, or let's say that's rightfully mine, this whatever it is, and can I let go? Then the attachment is kind of the glue that makes the ownership and the stinginess and safeguarding. So can I just consider that everything's impermanent and not really mine? How do we don't have to just fall a victim to this causal chain, but we can see how it happens in the world. and how it creates a lot of suffering.
Mhm.
It's taking, like how people do actually kill or have verbal battles, quarrel, arguments, disputes, accusations, backbiting, and lies. All these things can arise. All these unskillful, the akusala.
It's interesting to know that it's also our habit to think of others along these lines, that others are doing this same thing. For example, in the suttas, there's the bhikkhu who's sitting and saying, "What bliss, what bliss." And previous to monastic life, he'd been, some sort of royalty in that time and had a lot of things and had guards to keep those things. So there, this safekeeping, safeguarding was happening. And so they were kind of assuming he was recollecting the bliss of ownership of those things. And so they took him to the Buddha, and the Buddha questioned him, and he's like, "Oh, back when I had all of that stress from safeguarding and all of these things, and now I don't have that, and it's such bliss to just sit in the simplicity."
Right. He lived in fear. He said he lived in fear and he had guards at every door that because he thought that people were going to steal his stuff or kill him in order to get what he had.
Mhm.
And now he had nothing and he was like,
So what
oh,
bliss, what bliss.
aho, succumb, aho, succumb. So he was blissing out from not having. What I was talking about this causal chain here, um, should have had do I have evaluation? Yeah, that's that word, evaluation.
Mhm.
Evaluation is discrimination, distinction, evaluation, assessment. So that's us having, because it was pleasant in the past, or because it was pleasant now, or because, like I was saying, like if this was something really valuable, I might, you could have some piece of porcelain and it's got gold and just something really wonderful. There's another story about a cup actually where
Mhm.
there was this bhikkhu who was an abbot of the temple, an elderly abbot, and he had attendants waiting on him, and he had this cup was gifted to him. It was like this beautiful, rare porcelain cup or something, something very valuable, And they had it in a special cabinet, and that was his special cup. And they were just really wanted to honor this bhikkhu with this beautiful cup. And then this new novice in training comes and he's got making the tea and getting everything on the tray or whatever, and he comes to offer the tea to the abbot, and the cup falls somehow, shatters, and the monk goes, the abbot says, "Oh, thank goodness, there was so much stress over protecting this cup, keeping it safe, and now it's broken." And so uh yeah, so the that stress of trying to keep something valuable, so there's this evaluation to say, oh, this is like this really fine piece of, it's not, obviously, it's just
Isn't that one of them you found along the side
oh,
of the
this
road?
is a
It's a
popsicle.
Pomsakula cup,
Yeah, there were 4 cups just like this.
one of which is now broken.
Is it really?
Yeah,
One
we're
got
down, we're
broken?
down to 3.
Okay. Anyway, and you didn't tell me about this?
I guess I didn't. I've been hiding it from you, Aya. It just, I knew it was important, not.
Anyway, so yeah, it's good to know because I'm not like saying, didn't we have 4 of these? Did we? Yeah, at least we know that it's gone. Okay. But so the valuation adds to the attachment. See, opinion, judgment, verdict. And this is also where the sense of self comes, because I am a person that owns the finest cups for the finest tea. You can go into my tea room. I'm making this all up, but
I certainly hope nobody takes this as that they should bring us fine cups. We are very happy with the cups we have.
but anyway, but that you could even just with a teacup, it could
Yeah.
be very fancy, and then you have the finest grades of tea or coffee or something like that. And then this is who I am as the person with the finest things. So then the selfishness, stinginess, meanness, tight-fittedness. Somebody with really fine things could be extremely generous,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they can
definitely
give
see
away their finest cup,
that. Mhm.
even to a
Happily.
person on the street, because their person on the street just has this uh very worn cardboard cup that they're using again. Oh, can I give you something? But the yeah, can bring up stinginess and protection. So there's this is the chain here, is this where the sense of self gets really strong, where we have all this one word has all this meaning. And so that what's translated as evaluation, and then the stinginess, meanness, tight-fittedness arises from that, and then protection, preservation, safekeeping. I think Bhante Bodhi and Bhante Sujato both used the word safekeeping, so protecting it, like a um, and it's just material stuff in this case. It could be, in this case, it could be, sadly, at the time of the Buddha, uh, people were also
Yeah.
uh, material gain,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
animals, the livestock.
Mhm.
And when you look at a list of what people could obtain, it was talking about
Women.
servants and women, and male and female servants and women were in the list, sadly. It's not that it doesn't happening today. And then even if you have a spouse and you're very feeling like you have a very liberal relationship, you can be very possessive too, if you're not um, careful. So at this point, I think we can stop. Is there anyone with the last minute question? We could, or we could go off oh, Joseph is here. I didn't, you have a question? Good to see you.
Thanks, Venerable. I just wanted to get some feedback about. I was reading about laymen. This is. I'll try to make this related to the topic. So, men were encouraged to emulate the chief lay male disciples of the Buddha, which was Chitta and Hasataka Atavaka, or in Pali, it's Hataka of Avali. So, and he was said to have died with 3 regrets: not having seen enough of the Buddha, not having heard enough of the Dharma, and not having served enough of the Sangha. So he seems to have been reborn in the pure abodes as an anagami. So he was and he was known for the 4 bases of sympathy. So giving gifts, kindly speech, beneficial conduct, and equality or impartiality. And so my question is, how do we um, use these teachings wisely to guard the Sangha and guard the Dhamma and guard the maintenance of the 3 jewels? Because I feel like our relationships when we go for refuge with our spiritual friends are sacred, and we should really reconcile and protect and maintain those relationships, and not, for example, like the person who was in the woods saying, "What bliss, what bliss." He had spiritual friends around him who could check in on him, even if they thought he was being worldly. he was still surrounded by spiritual friends who were willing to take him to the Buddha. So if we're feeling cut off from community, and because we feel like we've been told we're too much, or we're it feels like there's just too much of these teachings of like, not I want to be I want to do my best as a lay follower to encourage teachings on non-divisive speech and talk about reconciling those who are divided and cementing those who are together. So how do we keep these teachings of renunciation balanced with actively maintaining the flourishing of the Buddha's dispensation? Sadhu. Thank you.
Joseph, we could talk about this just a second. So I hear some feedback. We're gonna go off the YouTube and we can talk about this then, because we're just at the end of the hour right now. So, and it's not exactly related to the sutta we've been looking at.
Well,
Well, we'll talk about it off.
all right,
Okay,
yeah.
because we can pull it together, but I think we don't have enough time for that. So we're gonna close, and then we can, those who want to stay on can stay on. And we can have it, it seems like I and Yannick has some ideas about how to address
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Okay, but let's talk
We
about
got
it.
a word from the sutta that we can pull this together.
Okay.
And we're at the top of the hour.
So we're going to turn towards the altar. You can put your hand down, Joseph. Okay, thank you. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivadami Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Okay, thank you those on YouTube for joining. We're